Sunday in Denver. It's free. Every last one of you are invited if you can make it down. And I'm also the host of my own talk show, my new talk show. It's called Charlo's Place. Head to charlogreene.com for information and to follow along. And I am letting you guys know all of this just to give you a glimpse of all of the opportunities that cannabis opens up for just about every last one of us. Of course, there are medical applications, but is a world of opportunity and good that happens when you move toward the future and move toward legalization.
Yes.
And especially for people like me. Many of you may know that I was a news anchor for some time before I became an activist. But before I was a news anchor, I was growing up in Anchorage, Alaska. A lot of people say there are black people in Alaska when they meet me, and I usually respond, well, there were before I left, and when I get back, there will be. But not right now. But I grew up one of 7 siblings. We struggled growing up. I spent most of my life as a kid and teen in shelters and sleeping on floors before I graduated high school and made it down to Texas and began working toward my degree in journalism. In college, that's where I was really introduced to cannabis. I, like many students, binge drank way too often, and I nearly failed out of school. It was one of my friends, the pothead in the group, that suggested I put down the bottle and start considering cannabis, and I did that and went from failing out of school to landing on the dean's list every semester after, graduating summa cum laude and becoming a news anchor. So years later, when I was working as the crime and courts reporter up in Anchorage, Alaska, I had returned home. They assigned me the marijuana beat, and I knew the good that cannabis could affect on my life. And so I came in with a different approach than most journalists that are tasked with telling the story of this revolution. I traveled to Colorado and Washington, and I met the activists out there working for legalization. I met the entrepreneurs, but most importantly, I met the patients that weren't in Colorado, but the ones that were driving across the nation for hours and hours just for a chance to get access to what they knew could change and save their lives. So when I returned home to Alaska and I learned that our medical marijuana law, our system, which we voted to pass in 1998, in 2014 we didn't have a single dispensary. We didn't have anywhere for our patients to gain access. And I knew I was likely the only one with the access to information and resources to make our medical marijuana law real. So on 4/20 of 2014, I created the Alaska Cannabis Club, and we celebrated our 2-year anniversary on 4/20 of this year.
Nice, nice.
And so it was through the club I met one of our first patients, a woman that we call Pam. She asked that I not share her name. She was battling a neurological disorder and was in the end stages of her life, and her doctor figured, why not prescribe her cannabis? What harm can it do at this point? When she asked where she could go to fill her prescription, her doctor told her to go and find it off the street. So at 72, she went into these back alleys and she was robbed not once but twice, the second time at gunpoint. She said she reached a breaking point and decided to pray for the first time in a long time for relief. And when she opened her eyes, she said something told her to go to her computer, and the first thing that popped up was the Alaska Cannabis Club. So I'm standing in front of her the next day, and she's bawling and telling me how the service I was called to create had just renewed her faith in God. And in that moment, I knew that I became a journalist so that I could become an activist. And I knew when I was ready to leave my career in journalism that I needed to do it in a public way to draw attention to ballot measure 2, our initiative to legalize cannabis. Just as Jeff was saying, it's all about talking about what it is that we're fighting for and working to spread the message And on November 4th, I did that with 4 words on live TV. Fuck it, I quit. And I walked away from that and into my new life as a cannabis activist, which leads me here today, to this march, and to what we're all fighting for.
Thank you so much.
And it all comes down to freedom. Freedom that is rightfully ours, that we never should have lost, but here we are, fighting tooth and nail to save our families, to save our futures, to save the prisoners that are still behind bars. I mean, everyone that's made it out here today, know that everything you're doing is appreciated beyond the city of Kansas City, beyond the state of Missouri. The activists down in Jamaica, they appreciate every stride you're making here because it affects them. The activists in Spain, everyone is connected, and the fact that Jeff was just speaking about how we need to unify so that we can strengthen our voices, that's what I've gained in all of my advocacy and travels. So what are we fighting for? What exactly are we here to do today? Well, I know that there are 2 initiatives that Missourians are voting on in November. One for medical marijuana, the other for complete legalization. And I'm all for complete legalization.
Yes.
I am. I appreciate the fact that people want to take these smaller steps toward our future. I can understand there is some apprehension toward leaping headfirst in. But I know that if the medical law passes, people like Jeff will not be let free, will be going to the polls and saying, yes, these lives matter, these medical lives matter, but these prisoner lives don't. And we can't do that. We can't do that. Not when we have the opportunity to impact change. Look around. It's 2016. And while this may not look like much, I didn't see a crowd as big as this in Alaska, but we legalized it. You're doing way more than we were doing in Alaska. So know that if we were able to do it up north, you can do it down here. You can do whatever you want to down here. You just need to remember how powerful you are. Every last one of you has the power to impact massive change. I just had one voice, and we pushed that, the platform that we gained using that. It wasn't just the fuck it, I quit thing. I mean, that was one sentence. But what happened afterward, us rallying and becoming registrars, going and having these real conversations, zigzagging the massive state of Alaska, going to villages and talking to people and explaining, I've used cannabis every day that you watched me on the news. I was high the night before, and I'm a great person. I am.
Yes, ma'am.
I am. It takes people being willing to connect with people. And once we all understand that and are willing to do these same things, the shaking the sides of the cars, they see that, they'll remember that. We do the same thing up in Alaska, negative 10 degrees. Nowhere near as fun as down here. But that's the work that you have to do, and it is appreciated. So I encourage every last one of you, when you head out to the polls, and over the course of the next several months, just remember, whatever it is you want to happen, you can demand that on November 8th. You can demand complete legalization on November 8th if that's what you feel your community needs. You can vote for both to make sure both are covered, just like Jeff was saying. But don't forget that our prisoners matter too. Don't forget that you and me, us law-abiding, while I might not need it medicinally, I don't deserve to go to jail over it, and neither do you.
Yes.
Neither do you. Neither do you. Period. Period, point blank. We have to stop giving up what we know is rightfully ours. We don't need to make these concessions anymore. We don't need to. The majority is on our side. Logic is on our side. Reason is on our side. Love, faith, hope, all good is on our side. We just have to stand up and take it. Thanks, guys.
Yes, ma'am. Give it up for Charlo Greene. Wow. Motivational. Don't give up. Never, never, never give up. We can get 100% legalization because we say so. We can clean our land and water. We can set our prisoners free. We can gain more money by setting non-violent cannabis offenders free than for our schools than anything else. We need 100% legalization. We need children not to get in trouble for getting a criminal record for having cannabis. That's a very, very, very big step. Not that, I don't know, I don't want to see Quick Trip selling a 10-year-old cannabis. You know what I mean? But I think we as individuals can come to that. You get the brick weed at the Quick Trip. Anyway, then our next artist up here, Jacob. Please give him a big hand. He's really cool. I've heard this guy a bunch of times.
4. Rattle and roll also. We rattle and roll also. That turn this mic up? Hey, this is... Yeah, hold on. Alright, we have